So imagine waking up one morning and you find out that your country's leader has, well, not vanished literally, but politically.
Sounds about right.
Yes, and that's kind of what's happening right now in South Korea. And it's a wild situation.
Wild is putting it mildly.
Well, yes. So President Yoon declared martial law. And
well, it backfired.
Big time.
Spectacularly.
And everything is just changing so fast every day, and the world is just scrambling to keep up.
Yeah, well, to try to make sense of all this chaos.
Exactly. And just to kind of set the stage. So President Yoon, he is facing immense pressure after declaring martial law, which, as we said, was quickly revoked by the National Assembly, right? But here's the thing. He's gone silent.
Yeah.
Completely silent.
Yeah.
And his own party leader is suggesting that he's been ousted.
Unusual.
It really is. And to make things even more complicated, South Korea's constitution, it doesn't have any provision for replacing a president outside of...
well, the usual, resignation, impeachment, or a new election.
Exactly. And so this is creating a massive power vacuum.
It is. And I think it's important to understand that martial law in South Korea, it's not just some abstract legal term. It carries a lot of weight. Historical significance, decades of authoritarian rule and military coups.
Yeah, it evokes a very specific and difficult period.
Absolutely. The suppression of democratic rights, So for Yoon to invoke this power, even though it was revoked very quickly by the National Assembly, it just opened up a Pandora's box, really.
A can of worms, yeah.
Anxieties, uncertainties, the whole thing.
And as you said, it's not happening in a vacuum.
No.
South Korea is facing all these challenges at the same time. You got the North Korean nuclear threats, economic anxieties, and now this deep political division.
Oh, yeah.
So really, Yoon's decision to declare martial law just added fuel to the fire.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's get into some specifics. Someone close to President Yoon, a senior member of the government, has said that the president, quote, has not and by law cannot cede power, end quote.
Yeah.
Except through those established legal means we talked about.
Right.
But then you have Han Dong-hoon basically acting like he's in charge.
Right.
So if the president hasn't officially stepped down, then who is really running the show?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Yeah, that's the question that's at the very heart of this entire crisis.
It seems like a power grab.
Well, that's exactly how the opposition groups are framing it, aren't they? So they're accusing Han of orchestrating what they're calling a second insurrection. So what they're saying is that Han is attempting to seize power illegitimately.
So what are they saying should happen? Do they want Yoon to just come back?
Well, their main goal, their primary objective is to remove Yoon completely from office. I mean, they see this, the opposition leaders, they see this crisis as a golden opportunity to capitalize on Yoon's missteps and regain control. That's where the impeachment efforts come into play.
So we've got one side saying that the president can only cede power through these legal means. And then you have the opposition using this whole martial law thing to say that he needs to be removed through impeachment.
Exactly. And they're not pulling any punches, I mean, they're saying that his actions, Yoon's actions, demonstrate that he's simply unfit to lead and that he needs to be removed from office completely, to restore stability. But they're seizing on this, of course, to advance their own agenda.
And all of this is having real-world effects.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got thousands of doctors on strike.
Yeah, over the healthcare policy changes.
Yeah, and the labor union is threatening more strikes until Yoon is impeached. And then, I mean, you already have the country dealing with the slowing economy and mounting debt.
Yeah, it's a real mess. And, I don't remember what his name was, but a professor at Seoul National University, he summed it up perfectly, I think, when he said that although we have a president, we are in a state of anarchy.
Yeah, I saw that quote. It's very striking.
Isn't it? I think it really highlights how this political paralysis is just preventing any sort of effective action to deal with these types of problems.
Right, they can't address anything.
No. And the people are the ones who have to suffer ultimately.
Yes, and then you have to layer on top of this the international implications. South Korea being a key player in this region and facing that constant nuclear threat from North Korea?
And our alliance with the United States, especially with the new U.S. president coming in soon.
Yeah, the timing of this is really...
Couldn't be worse.
No. Any sort of weakness, even the appearance of instability in South Korea, that could embolden the North.
Absolutely. It complicates the whole regional security situation.
Yeah, it seems like this whole martial law declaration has just sent shockwaves through every part of Korean society, from the political scene to the economy and even national security.
Everything is interconnected. Absolutely. And as we go further into this, I think we're going to find even more layers to this crisis.
Definitely. It's clear that South Korea is in a really tough spot right now. So what happens next? What are some of the potential outcomes?
Well, one possibility is that Yoon will somehow manage to hold on to power. But even if he does that, it's going to come at a huge cost because, let's face it, he'll be a lame duck president constantly fighting opposition and just struggling to govern.
Right, and he won't be able to.
His ability to enact any meaningful policy will just be completely gone.
Yeah, that's not really a recipe for stability, is it?
Not at all.
Or progress.
And to be honest, I don't think it's the most likely scenario.
Okay.
I think a more probable outcome is that Yoon is forced to resign, either through pressure from his own party or through impeachment.
Okay, so let's say that happens. What's next?
Well, in that case, a new presidential election would have to be held within 60 days, because that's what the Constitution says. And that could actually make things even more unstable.
Yeah?
I mean, we're talking about a country that's already dealing with so many issues.
Right, domestically, internationally.
Exactly.
A prolonged political crisis could be devastating.
Yeah, it's so concerning because it's like watching a political system fall apart in real time.
And the consequences could be huge.
Absolutely. It really shows just how fragile things are. And you can't forget about the people. What about them? We already talked about doctor strikes and labor unions, but there's still this underlying sense of unease. Like, imagine living in a country where you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Very good point. So how are people's lives actually being affected by this?
Well, think about the economy, right? Korea depends a lot on exports, and this sort of instability could easily scare away investors and hurt businesses. I mean, consumer confidence is already low, and this just makes it worse.
Right.
And this also raises another very important question about the military as well. Like, how are they supposed to protect the country
If they don't know who's in charge?
Yeah, that's the problem.
This whole South Korean constitutional crisis, I mean, it's important for people to pay attention to.
Yeah, it's not a regional issue.
Right.
It affects the whole world.
It shows how quickly things can fall apart, even in a country that's had a democracy for a while. I gotta say, this whole situation has really got me thinking about power. Like, how do you stop things from descending into chaos?
It's something that every country should be asking. This crisis is a warning. It shows how important it is to have clear rules, a system of checks and balances, and a commitment to the rule of law.
And it shows just how important it is for people to be informed and to understand how their government works.
That's right. Democracy isn't just about voting. It's about participating, thinking critically, and being willing to defend it.
So, before we finish up, what is one thing that you would like our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think this crisis is a reminder that political stability is precious. And it's something that we need to work to protect. And we need to be aware of the threats to democracy, both from within and outside of our countries. And we need to be ready to stand up for the things that make a free and fair society.